Hello guys, on this video I want to explore something that I got my attention, which I actually saw this a long time ago, but now that it seems Kamala seems to be the leading candidate for the Democrat Party, I wanted to mention a point why some people that are on the right side see some people on the Democrat side as socialist. And I think there's extreme on both sides. I don't think there's this side is 100% this. No, there's it's a bunch of it's a bunch of lies. There's there's extremes from both sides, and between all the algorithms that we have in social media and all the things that being fed to each side, that's why whenever people try to have conversations, it seems like people live in a different world. Like when you mention certain things, they look at you surprised, like, what is this guy talking about? And on this subject, I wanted to bring an old video from her from 2020, from her campaign, where she was talking about equity, which means equality of outcome, which is completely different from equality of opportunity. I believe everyone agrees we should have equality of opportunity for everyone that comes. Personally, I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States not speaking the language, not knowing anything, and I was able to go to school, become educated, and get my degree in cybersecurity, for example. And that's currently what I do for a living. And the funny part is, there's some sections on the left where they still see as there's so many problems in the US. And I think the way politics are done today, not sure necessarily if it's, again, the algorithm or the fact that we have become so polarized. And I think we have become also so polarized because of the algorithms. And the point that I'm bringing is this video of equity. So I'm going to show you guys the video and explain why equality of outcome is such a dangerous thing, because many people might not see it. So let me roll the clip.
Difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests, oh, everyone should get the same amount. The problem with that, not everybody's starting out from the same place. So if we're all getting the same amount, but you started out back there and I started out over here, we could get the same amount, but you're still going to be that far back behind me. It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing. Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
So what is wrong with this video, or not necessarily the video, is the mentality behind it. The mentality behind equity is you want to help those people that didn't have a good situation as they were growing up, which from the human side, it makes sense. You want to help those people, but I think it is the wrong mentality or a shallow depth of understanding how the situation, how those ideas can be really, really dangerous. How can they be dangerous? Let's put this example of a class. Let's say you have a class of 20 people. Not everybody in the class has the same grade. Not everybody in the class has the same IQ. They're not as smart. Not everybody's as smart. Not everybody had the same childhood. Not everybody had the same effort. That's another thing people fail to recognize. Effort is really important. What if you want to make the class average? How about the people that are failing the class and the people that have 100%? Hey, we're going to make everything equal. What's going to happen? You're going to start building resentment. At the beginning, the people that are not doing, they're not doing much. That, hey, look, I'm not doing anything and I'm having 70. And the people that are putting effort, that were normally getting hundreds, they're looking down at those people like, hey, I'm busting my ass, working many hours. That way I can actually have a better understanding of the material, the class, whatever. So it gets, the problem is that system, it gets to the point that the people that are actually putting the work, they don't want to put in the work because they know regardless how they do, it's going to be averaged out. So there was actually an experiment that was done about this, and some students actually believed in communism, socialism. And at the end of the class, it failed. The whole class failed because the people that are putting the effort The problem is you cannot create a system where it incentivizes people not to do anything. That is the main problem with that mentality. If you just give and take from other people that are not doing enough, what happens is those people are going to stop doing, and it's gonna build resentment against the other people. And this is where all this relates to socialism. What is socialism? Socialism is creating a level playing field, or the idea of creating a level playing field. I came from Cuba. I know the only thing we got there as equal is we were all poor. Remember what happened in Venezuela? Same thing. The problem is when you get to the extreme, the problem is becomes so difficult to actually control everything. That way everybody reaches to the same point that it doesn't make sense, because we not all value the same thing. For some people, they might enjoy doing photography. For some people, they might enjoy doing a sport. For other people, they might enjoy different things. And when you have different variables, all those different variables are valued differently. And people are like, no, what about if we have more people that have more money? Like, I actually had a friend of mine who asked me this. Oh, it's so easy. People can make $1 million. And I was like, what do you think would happen if everybody has $1 million? You just devalue the currency. You just create boom, inflation. And people did not think about that, especially back in 2020, because, hey, while we were all home, it was easy to get $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever, however much money you got. But what was the result? For how long have we had inflation? My point is, at the end, nothing comes from free. And this is the point of why the people that have the mentality that you can control all those variables, and at the end, everybody's going to reach to the same destination, it is a bunch of nonsense. It is nonsense. There's no way to enforce it. And I'm going to give some examples how this fails miserably. Let me give you the example of Cuba. Cuba in the 1950s, before Castro took over, Cuba was one of the biggest producers in sugar in the world. And what happened? Castro took over. Castro had a resentment. So Castro began as he said he was not a socialist. And the problem is he started taking companies over that belong to the United States. And then that's when there's, how would I describe it? They didn't like each other. They were having some political issues regarding the economy, how some companies in the U.S. were affected because, of course, Castro just said, hey, this is mine. Good luck. And sanctions were put against Castro because of that. And then we have Russia coming along, and Russia, he's like, hey, this sounds perfect. We're going to have a satellite state 90 miles from the United States. And Castro was like, hey, might as well. Let's jump into the Marxism and socialism. And what happened? How is one of the biggest producers in sugar in the world doing today? They don't even have factories to actually produce the sugar. They have nothing. They're actually import. Funny enough. Another thing, Cuba imports fish. You would think an island would be able to actually get fish, but no. The problem is, it is the system that is developed that does not incentivize people to actually push to become better, to do better things. And it is the same with that mentality that, hey, I'm going to have so much control over people that we are going to reach to the same point. And I'm going to put a similar example. How about if you're in your job? We're going to make everyone get paid the same, regardless of how many hours you work, regardless of what you do. What do you think is going to happen? Again, it could work. It could work. I mean, there's probably one company that's doing it. There's this guy, I forgot the name of the company. Everyone, I believe they're making $70K. And again, it's his decision. If people support that, that is completely fine. But for the most part, it's going to build resentment. If you have a higher position, if you are in a more important position, if you put 40, 60, 80 hours a week, you're going to have resentment against the people that is getting paid the same, working less hours than you. And that is the problem with equity. Even twins from the same family, they don't turn out to be the same. That happens all the time. You have a really successful guy who was, and his twin, a total disaster. That's why the idea that you can control all those things And the problem is, what kind of government you need to have that? Because that is the main concern. Which government were able to implement the idea of equity? Socialist and communist countries. And I'm going to give you some data regarding the example of Ukraine. Ukraine, I believe in the 1920s, had one of the worst famines. And it was because Stalin, who was, at that part, the Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. And in order to enforce the collectivism, the mentality of socialism, and coerce the people to that idea, what happened? They starved millions of people to death. And I'm going to give you the numbers. So here's the article that I was talking to you guys about. Joseph Stalin starved millions in the Ukrainian famine. Cruel efforts under Stalin imposed collectivism to tamp down Ukrainian nationalism, left an estimate of 3.9 million dead. 3.9. So for some context, Hitler killed around 6 million Jews. So the idea of collectivism, the idea of making everyone equal, of course, the only ones that are not going to be equal is the people in government, the people that are going to actually be living the good life. That's the part that people always omit when they're talking about socialism. So let's expand on the article. Another point that I want to show. So the Ukrainian famine was called the Holodomor, which was a combination of words between starvation and inflicting death. And many historians have called this famine a man-made famine, meaning it was a famine based exactly on the decisions by Joseph Stalin himself. Let's go to the next one. So the goal of Stalin was pretty much to create as fast as possible a socialist country and a socialist economy, communist, in Ukraine. And he imposed strict controls around the food and everything, how everything is collected. And people resisted. And the problem is, when people resisted, guess what happens in socialism when you resist? You go to jail or they kill you. That's pretty much how it is. And as another tactic that they use, they call people names in order to make them to make the people feel as they're not human. So you dehumanize the person, and they'll call those farmers that are resisting, which if they would have won, they probably would have called them the heroes. But since they lost, they call them the kulaks. And in other words, they will be the peasants according to the Russians. A beautiful way to see the actual successful people back then, funny enough. And that is the problem. When the socialism system is implemented, you have incompetent people that they don't know what they're doing. And then you have a farmer that knows how to grow his crops. And then you put someone in charge who has no idea what they're doing. And they implement rules that either destroy the crops, cause people to lose food. And in this case, millions of people died. The same that happened in China with Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong made some changes that led to millions of people dying because, again, socialism does not promote competence. It does not promote intelligent people from doing their job. It's like you take out an electrician and you put him to fix computers. Can he do the job? Possibly. Is he qualified to do that job? No. And then you have other problems that people did not see coming. So my point with this, without rambling too long on this, it is wrong to have somebody in office that has those ideas, even though it comes from the naive perspective that, hey, I just want to do good for people. But remember the quote: the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Sometimes just because you have good intentions does not mean it is the right decision. The same way, when you have a misbehaving child, sometimes just being nice to the child is not the way to correct the direction that child is going. The same way, having a president who has those ideas and has very little understanding of economics and how those things work is either selling the dream to become a politician. So the same way Biden did it in the midterms, he said he was going to pay your loans, but he didn't say how he's going to fix why schools are charging so much. Because all he wanted was your vote. He got your vote. Even Nancy Pelosi said, hey, He doesn't have the power to do that. And now I heard they were talking about doing some student loan forgiveness. Again, don't be manipulated, guys. Both parties, in this case the Democrats, they want to manipulate you to get your vote. And since the Democrats don't really care about the economy, they think they can print as much as they want. They just gonna print money to try to get your vote. And look what they do to the black community. Every 4 years, they call the person on the other side of the aisle. Oh, he's a racist. He's this. He's that. To get their vote. Once they get their vote, do you hear them talking about the black community? Do you hear about any plans that the president Biden had to improve, let's say, San Luis? Why is the crime so bad in San Luis? Why you don't help the situation there? They don't care. They just want your votes. But I'll wrap it up with this video. I'll leave you guys some quotes here from Thomas Sowell and Alexander Dostoevsky. I don't know how to pronounce it incorrectly. All right, guys.